Hey adventurers, this is Janae and welcome back to Carpe Adventure. Alright, so today we're at Epcot and we're going to be combining history and tradition. History because I want to give you some fun facts behind each of the 11 pavilions in World Showcase, and tradition because we're going to be drinking around the world while we do it. A time-honored tradition here at Epcot for cast members and guests alike. Here we go. Now, I haven't eaten anything yet today, so I'm really glad that there are empanadas and tacos because something has to soak up the margarita or I'm not going to make it at all. Okay, first pavilion here at Mexico, and I have the smoky pineapple margarita. So I think it's going to be more spicy than smoky, just judging from the ingredients, but I like all of those things, so let's give it a whirl. Oh, that's really good. Oh my gosh. Oh, the beer chaser. Hold on. Wow. The chili lime rim. They're not kidding. Oh, I feel like my whole face is puckered in on itself. Okay, the margarita's really good. This rim is of the devil. Oh my god, it's really, really okay. Anyway, on to Mexico facts. So the Mexico Pavilion itself is designed to represent two different areas of Mexico. So first we have the amazing Mayan temple rising up out of the Yucatan rainforest. And then if you go inside, the whole Cantina de San Angel area is supposed to represent the more arid desert regions of Mexico. Of course, on the outside, you can notice all these amazing reliefs and carvings and everything. And there's very good reason for that, not just to make it more decorative, but also to prevent children from climbing up the pyramid. So multitasking. Beautiful and practical. Winner, winner. Now, when you do go inside, there is a beautiful statue. It's a bridal couple for Dia de los Muertos, and it was actually created by a father and son in Mexico City. The family's been hand making similar pieces for over 300 years, so make sure you check it out. And now I'm going to eat my empanada so I can soak up my margarita before we move on to the next one. Do you see this? All covered in runes and looking awesome. This, to me, is the most disappointing thing of all of Walt Disney World. Everything's all about little details and everything has a meaning, and to the best of my knowledge, and I've tried for years to see if I'm wrong, this doesn't actually translate to anything. Like, it should be a really fun message, and it just doesn't. So here we are in pavilion number 2, Norway, and I have an Einstock, which if you look at the sign, it looks like it's one beer that is a combination of a white ale and a toasted porter, but no, they have two different beers. They were like light or dark. Said light, I guess. So this is the white ale. The other one's a totally different beer. So oh, that's really good. At first, I almost thought it was like a Blue Moon kind of, but it's not. It's just a really good light beer. Moving on to Norway itself. So this is the baby out of the pavilions. So Norway was actually opened as a pavilion in 1988, 4 years after Morocco. So yes, all of these pavilions did not open with Epcot. So this opened in 1988, and the dedication to the Norway Pavilion was actually preceded over by Crown Prince Harald V, and it was broadcast in Norway itself. Now, Akershus, where the restaurant is in the Norway Pavilion, is actually modeled after the castle in Oslo. The Stavkirke, or Stavkirke, if I'm being fancy, was actually a really popular design for churches in Norway in the Middle Ages. And this actually is an almost exact replica of the Gol Stavkirke in Norway itself. Now, the pavilion here wanted to be as authentic to Norway as it could, obviously. And so you'll see a lot of the grass on the roofs. You'll see different styles. So in the pavilion, it represents Bergen, Oslo, Seta style, also and all sorts of different styles from around Norway within the pavilion itself. Quick recommendation, if you ever want something amazing, come to the bakery here in Norway and get the school bread. It is one of my favorite things in the whole world. But if I eat an entire custard filled loaf of sweet bread, I am not making it the rest of the way around. But you should do it. It's awesome. Hey everyone, and Nieman Hao to China. Welcome. I have the sea butterfly here, and this seems to have nothing but alcohol in it, which I understand is the point, but I wasn't expecting it to be mostly clear. And in my experience, if it's clear, you're in trouble. So come by. This is pure alcohol. There are boba bubbles in the bottom. I don't know if you can tell. I do have a straw. I kind of feel like this is might be like the death of me. Oh my god, it's very pretty. Okay, the boba are really citrusy. I think I'm gonna die. Reconsidering my life choices right now. It's definitely not as bad if you mix it. But before I die of blood alcohol poisoning, let's actually talk about the China Pavilion, shall we? The first thing you notice is this amazing gate. Now, the gate is actually known as Zhao Yang Men, and it's the gate of the colorful sun. And as you walk throughout the China Pavilion, you'll notice that there are numbers that are repeated: 4, 9, and 12. 4, 9, and 12 are incredibly symbolic numbers in China. 4 for the number of seasons, 9 for the number of tails a dragon has. Didn't know that, did you? And then 12, of course, for the numbers of, or not the numbers, but the different members of the zodiac, or number of months. Now, when you go and look at one of the most iconic features here, it is this amazing building, which is actually a replica of the Temple of Heaven, specifically the Hall of Prayer for Good Harvest at the Temple of Heaven in Beijing. And if you walk inside, you'll see that it is actually acoustically perfect. It will echo back if you stand in the very middle. And outside, there are 12 pillars. Inside, 9 stones, and then 4 pillars holding up a beam that represents earth with a rounded beam representing heaven inside. Everything here has a meaning. Not to say that other countries don't have that, but it is particularly important in China, and that is represented here at the pavilion. So you see the food dogs everywhere, but how do you tell which one is male and which one is female? The male, you can always tell because he's always holding a pearl, also meant to represent the entire world, which brings us to the female, who always has a cub underneath her claw, so she's holding her young one. And also, you can always remember because the female is always right. Jumbo to the African outpost. Now, I know that this is not technically a pavilion, but it's an opportunity for another drink, and this is still a really important historical stop to make. So we've got the Safari Amber Draft, which is a great amber beer, highly recommend. But the reason why I want to stop here at the African Outpost is because World Showcase has 11 pavilions, but it actually has room for 9 more. It may not seem like it, but it does. Now, in the initial planning stages, Israel, Spain, and Equatorial Africa were all planned, like heavy into the planning stages. The African Pavilion, Equatorial African Pavilion, was actually so planned that Alex Haley had speeches on it. He was part of the original planning, and it was even listed in Epcot's opening day map that this was coming. It was imminent, but everything just kind of dragged on. So this was held as kind of a placeholder while the negotiations dragged and dragged and dragged on. This was supposed to be a combo of Kenya, the Ivory Coast, and Senegal. Unfortunately, it never happened, but we still have the great placeholder here. Maybe someday. Welcome into Germany, one of my absolute favorite pavilions because it's one of my absolute favorite countries. Now, this pavilion is a combination mostly of Rothenburg ob der Tauber and Munich. So you can really see Rothenburg in the fountain right here. So you've got St. George killing the dragon, and then if you scan right up, you can see the Glockenspiel, the famous Glockenspiel that is in on Munich City Hall. Okay, so I finally got my drink. There's a bit of a line, but I've got a Beck's Pilsner because honestly, even though this is only the fourth pavilion, technically it's five because we went to the outpost. I need to pace myself. So I've got the Pilsner, which is really good, but more importantly, I have a nice soaking up alcohol pretzel. It's awesome. Okay, more Germany facts. You may have noticed the statues of the dudes up here. They're actually Habsburg emperors. Habsburgs ruled for over 400 years. I suppose it's only just that we put statues of them here in Epcot. Can we talk about this? So, according to legend, if you get a pickle and hide it somewhere in the Christmas tree, whoever finds it gets an extra present, which sounds amazing. Like, yes, I want an extra present. The problem is, no German person I have ever met knows anything about this. As best as we can gather, that someone that was involved in the initial planning of the German pavilion here had this as a family tradition. But I have many friends from all over Germany. No one knows a thing about the pickle. No one has ever heard about the pickle. As far as we can tell, this is a created thing. Let's talk trains and go to Italy. So one of the best things about the train set is that it actually has hidden Mickeys. So if you look right above the archway to the doorway there of the church, you can see 3 Mickey hats. 1, 2, 3. Welcome to Italy. So I decided to go with the Chianti because while I had a sangria here last time, it actually wasn't all that good, which I guess maybe is because that's more a Spanish thing. They had a white sangria mixed with Prosecco that sounded good because yay bubbles, but I know Chianti is solid. Chianti is good. If you want to know some fun history about Chianti, you're going to have to wait until I'm back in Italy, and then I'll tell you the full story when I'm in Tuscany. But in the meantime, yep, that's a solid Chianti. Okay, I'm fortified, ready to talk about the Italian pavilion. So the first thing you'll notice is that it is the architecture is all designed on the Doge's Palace in Venice. This whole pavilion is really all about Venice. So you've got the 2 giant poles, one with St. Theodore at the top, who is a military leader who is instrumental in the history of Venice, as well as the winged lion, which is the historical protector of Venice. And then as you get back into the pavilion, you'll notice a fountain. This is called the Neptune Fountain. And it is supposed to be kind of reminiscent of the Trevi Fountain in Rome. So not all of Venice, a little bit of Rome in there as well. But the really kind of cool fun fact is the Via Napoli, the pizza restaurant, all the way in the back. They actually import special water from the Northeast that closely resembles the mineral content of the water in Naples. So when they're making the pizza crust, it is the closest possible thing to an actual original pizza in Naples that you could possibly get. That's authenticity. Welcome to America, everyone. So today I've got the Sam Adams Seasonal, which right now is a winter lager, which I love. Oh yeah, that's good stuff. It was toss up between this and the Yingling. I figured history either way, but I really, really like the I like the Yingling too, but the Sam Adams. So, as with America, the American Pavilion has an awful lot of history around it. So the theming is pretty much a combo of Monticello in Virginia and Independence Hall in Philadelphia. Now, if you look at the outside, there are actually over 110,000 handmade red clay bricks direct from Georgia, which is pretty amazing. And then if you look at the door, the entranceway, the door is 12 feet tall. This whole thing, this whole structure is all about forced perspective, which is used kind of throughout the Disney theme parks. Now, this pavilion, as with many of them, has changed quite a bit throughout the initial planning stages to reality. It originally was going to be a very modern building, a kind of gateway, and it was going to be all the way over here. That's right, it was going to be on the other side of World Showcase, all the way over by Future World, and it was meant to be a gateway that you would enter through the American Gateway Pavilion to access all of the other countries. So that's kind of a bit of a yikes, looking at it through the lens of history and everything now, but it also explains why we have Mexico on one side and Canada on the other, because at the time, It was going to be geographically accurate. The problem now is not that I'm intoxicated. I can really thank my Irish heritage for this. I have an extremely high tolerance and I'm feeling okay. I'm just really, really full. I don't really want to put anything else into my system. And I still have 5 countries to go. So we're going to make it through though. Never give up, never surrender. All right, from my current country to the country I grew up in. Let's go to Japan. Okay, so I have no idea what this is going to taste like, but it was called a violet sake. It is called a violet sake. And I thought, why not? That seems really fun. So, oh, oh my gosh. Okay, that's really good. So the very nice gentleman inside said this was sake, desert pear mix of some kind. I'm not drunk. And lime juice. Anyway, this is really good, really refreshing, a little sweet. It actually kind of tastes like a high-end Kool-Aid. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, it's actually really, really good and refreshing. I feel like this is one of those things that's very dangerous. Like, you have 1 or 2 and you're like, I'm fine. And then you stand up and you fall down. Anyway, moving on to Japan. One of the most iconic parts of the Japanese pavilion is the torii gate right out front. Now, this represents the floating torii that it can be seen in Miyajima in Japan itself. And you may notice that there are barnacles added to the base of the torii gate. And that's kind of a nod to not only what the real one looks like, but also to make it look like it's been here for many centuries. So the pagoda right at the front of the Japanese pavilion is actually modeled after Horyuji Temple in Nara. And the 5 levels of the pagoda actually represent the elements that Buddhists believe all things were created from: earth, fire, water, wind, and of course, sky. The main shop here is called Mitsukoshi, and you can see it says established 1673, which is when it started as a kimono shop, but in 1904, it became Japan's first department store. It was also the first place to actually have an escalator in all of Japan. One other thing to just kind of make note of is that this is the only Mitsukoshi department store in the entire United States. You want Mitsukoshi? You got to go here. I'd heard that there was a statue that had been donated by the government of Japan to the Magic Kingdom when it opened. And that when Epcot opened, then they moved it from the Magic Kingdom over here to Epcot because, of course, it makes sense. Now, I thought it was this statue over here, but as it turns out, that's not it. It's this statue over here. So now we know. Welcome to Morocco and my Mahirita. Almost went for the blood orange mimosa, but you can get blood orange pretty much everywhere on Walt Disney World property. The Morocco Pavilion is the only place to get the fig brandy that is in this. So here we go. Oh, it's a lot of alcohol in that. It's really good, but it's gonna make it exciting to make it through the last 3 pavilions. Now, a couple of fun facts about Morocco. First of all, Morocco as a country was the very first nation to recognize America as a nation, which is pretty awesome. And this is actually the only pavilion that was funded by a government and not a corporation. And so much money was given to us to build the Morocco Pavilion that we could have actually created all of World Showcase just as Morocco. And that's why also the Morocco Pavilion is so detailed. If you walk through, you'll notice so many mosaics and tiles, and all of these are handmade, by the way. But you will notice in all of them, it's not that they're decaying. The reason that there's a chip or a crack or something like that in all of them is because in the Muslim belief, only Allah is perfect. And so each of these handmade tiles and mosaics and everything like that have to have some kind of flaw so that they're not perfect, because that's only for Allah. Now, King Hassan II is the one that actually gave all the funds to this, and he's still, in the Moroccan government still to this day, sends artisans every single year to help repair and upkeep the Moroccan pavilion. All when they're done. Hello, everyone. Bienvenue to Paris, to France. So I have champagne because really, is there any other option? Okay, yes, there are many options. But for me, because I still have 2 more pavilions to go, I felt like this was the least offensive way to go, is to actually have champagne. So, oh, that's lovely. High on my bucket list is to go to the actual Champagne region of France. But in the meantime, until I get there, we have France here at Epcot. Now, a couple fun facts about the French pavilion. First of all, is that while the garden areas in all of the different pavilions in World Showcase are changed seasonally, not here in France because it's always springtime in Paris. And this whole pavilion is meant to look like a Parisian neighborhood. And then, of course, you see the Eiffel Tower, obviously one of the most iconic features of France itself, as well as the French pavilion. The one here is 103 feet tall and has natural bird repellents on it because if you saw a life-size bird on this Eiffel Tower, the forced perspective would become pretty apparent, and because it would look like a Godzilla bird, which amuses me not just because I'm slightly intoxicated, but because in general, Godzilla birds are funny. I'm just gonna drink more champagne now. I feel okay, but I can tell that my speech is getting a little exciting. Really full. Doing okay? I just don't want to drink anymore. But I'm gonna. 2 more pavilions to go. Let's do it. Here in the UK Pavilion, one of the cool things is the tea caddy here, which was inspired by the childhood home of Anne Hathaway, Shakespeare's wife. Now you'll notice thatch on the roofs of many of the parts of the UK Pavilion, and due to fire regulations, the thatch is actually plastic instead of rushes or straw. Outside the Queen's table here, if you look in the windows, you'll see 4 crests in the windows, and they're for Oxford, Cambridge, Eton, and Edinburgh, the 4 famous schools in the UK. So I have a Bass Ale, beer in my hand, so let's talk about the UK Pavilion. Now, one of the big things that you probably think of, or at least I think of when I think of UK history, the British history, is all the different kings and queens. But you'll notice that there aren't really many represented in this pavilion. There is randomly a sundial, though, and that's by design because there are so many amazing kings and queens that they just didn't know who to represent. So they just stuck a sundial in there and figured, whatever, everyone's represented. Okay, one of the only places you'll actually see one of the kings or queens mentioned is our current monarch, Queen Elizabeth II. And it's on this post office box right here, much like the ones in the UK. You'll see ER2. This is for Elizabeth Regina II, Queen Elizabeth II. This is what they look like in the UK. So, authenticity and a monarch represented. Cheers! Welcome to the Canadian Pavilion. Wow. Okay. Still have to get my drink, but I want to point out these 3 totems. So, starting over here on the right, they are amazing, intricately carved. However, only one of these is actually authentic, and that's the one all the way over to the left. It is a 700-pound cedar totem pole, 30 feet high, carved by renowned Tsimshian Indian carver named David Boxley. It is 3 stories of raven, a traditional story among the Northwest coastal Indians. Now, that may not seem like much of a waterfall, but it serves an important purpose. The sound of the water rushing through the waterfall actually masks the sound of a generator right behind it. Last pavilion, the great island nation of Canada. So I have a Moosehead, lager, draft, sure. Oh my God. Yeah, this is where we're at. It's good, it tastes like a lager. I have maple popcorn. My life is good. I'm here in the Canadian Pavilion. There are actually some really cool fun facts. So if you look at the mountain over here, that is the exact same as a part of the mountains in Canada. The problem is I can't remember which one it is right now, but I know that as the story goes, the Imagineers looked at the mountains in Canada and crag for crag, divot for divot, absolutely replicated a section of it. So supposedly you could go to whatever mountain is represented. Again, I am 10 pavilions in right now, so I can't really tell you, but you could measure this up against a section of mountain in Canada and it will be identical, 100% exactly the same. I may notice the trees up there, and the fun thing is that they're actually grown in tubs so that when they get too tall, they can be moved because we want to maintain that forced perspective, so they have to stay a certain height. And that's pretty much everything about Canada. It takes us through all 11 pavilions as well as the African outpost. And yeah, I think the biggest hurdle with drinking around the world is really that you're just really full. I don't feel all that impaired. I understand that I'm probably slurring a bit, maybe more than a bit. I feel okay, but I'm really full. I don't want to eat or drink anything ever again, and I still have this in my popcorn to get through. Anyway, please drink responsibly. But hopefully everyone learned something about Epcot. It really is a cool park. It's unlike anything else, and there is so much Disney history in it, and it really makes me kind of partial to it in my heart. But hopefully you all enjoyed. I'm bringing it on home now. Please hit like and subscribe. There are going to be a lot more videos about history, Disney history, travel videos once I can actually travel around the world. And yeah, anyway, bye. Hit the bell so you're notified whenever I drop a new ridiculous video. Pro, slancha, kampai, all that. Woo.
Chug, 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 chug. Okay.